Yeah, that's okay. Those small. I do like this. No, that's your this one. I do like this. I use them.
We are here again at Sweet Susan Fashion and Craft Online Academy. Now, these are the materials needed to make this beautiful Zarah cap. 1 yard of satin material, the Mako, pair of scissors, long needle, thread, matching threads, and tailor's chalk. These are all the things that is required to make this Zarah cap. A yard of satin will be enough. Now from that 1 yard of satin or any non-stretchy fabric, measure out the edge circumference 26 inches by the width 18 inches, 26 by 18. Then use your iron to give it a good press, fold it and keep aside. Now get the fabric to make the gathered rows. You will need a long stretch of material. If you can't get this long stretch, you are free to sew one portion on another. I did some sewing here. As you can see, I'm showing you where I sewed together, as long as you make it neat. When you finish sewing, open up the seam and iron. It gives you a good finishing. Now, what's the measurement of this fabric gathered rows? We took it 108 inches long by 7 inches. Then fold it into 2 along the width and iron. Fold it into 2 along the width, which is 7 inches, and give it a good press. The longer your fabric, the fuller your rows. Now there are 2 techniques that you can use. Either you use a crinoline, tough crinoline inside to give it that wavy look, wavy texture. This is a 1 inch crinoline. If you can get it to stick it inside or stuff it inside the folded fabric. If you put it in right at that edge, you can see the way I'm placing it, not at the base but on top, inside, from beginning to the end, you are going to get a wavy effect. However, I'm not using this crinoline for this project. If you can afford it, you can put crinoline inside yours. The texture is different from when you don't put. So keep that aside. Then we go back to our Zarah cap base. Remember, we had 26 inches by 18 inches. Now look for the wrong side and the right side. Let the wrong side face you. Fold into 2 along the edge circumference. The edge circumference is the one that is 26 inches. Then notch at the center to get the exact middle point. Notch the center, keep it aside. Remember your Mako, that is 3 inches by 20. If you have 3 inches by 18, it's still okay. Notch it also at the center so that you will be able to get center to center. Now, opening up your fabric on the wrong side facing you, put your marco center to center, and here you go. Get your E8000 or any good gum. Why do you want to gum this material together? Just to stabilize your work, so that by the time you are stitching there won't be a shift. If you have gum, all the better, but if you don't have, you can still go ahead and make your Zarah by using pins. Make sure that you use office pins to first of all put your work in place before you start stitching. Now, you remember you marked 1 inch upwards. Can you see? You don't add the marco right at the very edge. Raise it up like 1 inch upwards, then you place it center to center. By the time you place it center to center, you will have some 3 inches at the edge, at the two sides. Now fold up that 1 inch like you see me do. Fold it up to the extent that the edges are folded in, folding twice. We don't want the edges of our material to show. That's why we are going to this extent. Now we have folded it center to center, 1 inch up, folding the 1 inch 2 times, fold again like you can see me do. Fold it, wrap the marco with the material, then with your office pin, pin down that portion where your marco ends. Then turn your material to the right side facing you. Can you see what I'm doing? Please do not stitch at the very base. Move your stitching upwards. Don't stitch that first part. Go up and carefully stitch your material up. Stitch it in a way as if you are housing the marco. You are building a room for your marco. Having stitched, take it to your machine and stitch it from the left to the right. Remember, you are stitching it with the right side facing you. When you're done stitching this place where my hand is right now, you stitch it in a way that you can now shift the stitch, the seam, the sewing stitching to the back. Shift it to the back. We don't want that sewing point to show. Move it to the back so that somebody looking at your Zarah will not see your stitches. Yes, and when you have moved it to the back, encase your marco in a way that's where the marco ends, that is that 20 inches. Stitch it up, down. Can you see? The stitch is now at the back. Now, placing your material wrong side facing you, fold it into two. Fold it into two. Get your tape and measure 11.5 to 12 inches, depending on the edge circumference of your client. If you make it too loose, it will not be so fine. And if it is too tight, it could be falling off the client's head. So I would prefer you use something like 12 inches or 11.75. Sometimes ladies wear wigs and they want to still put on their Zarah cap. So assuming that your client is wearing a wig, that's why we are using edge circumference 12 or 11.25. Now right at that corner where two is not on the folded parts, that's not where you are marking. You are marking the loose side. Take 4 inches inwards. Then from where you have marked on your left, create an arc like you can see me do. Then with a seam allowance of like 0.75, stitch your Zarah base. Take it to your machine. If you don't have machine, you can use your hand needle and thread. When you finished stitching, get your zigzag scissors or your serger weaving machine and give it a good finishing. So you can see me, you have to come back to this arc shape. When you've gotten this arc shape, thread your needle and thread. Make sure that you make your needle thick. Now on that seam from the top, not from the base, you can see where we are starting from, run a gather stitch from the top place where your marco ends. Make sure you secure your stitch. That's what I'm doing. If you don't secure it, it could lose and that will not be good. Now create a gather stitch from there to the apex of your Zarah. Can you see what I'm doing? Create loose stitch or gather stitch from the top where your marco starts to the apex of your Zarah cap. You can run this gather stitch at least 2 times so that it's well secured. Cut off your excess threads and make sure your work is neat. Can you see it? I'm trying to show you what you need. You ought to have as your outcome. Make sure you double stitch at the end of your sewing so that your thread does not give way. We are done with the making of the Zarah cap base. You can see it, turn it inside out. That's your cap. Now the concept is that you should cover this place of joining with your gathered rose accessory. Yes, you are free to do any other thing to cover that place as long as it comes out beautiful. Now we want to make our gathered rose. Remember, we are using length 108, that is 36 times 3 by 7 inches. Having ironed, folded into 2 and ironed, get your needle and thread and run a gather stitch from beginning to the end. You won't believe what will come out of this. Just watch. 108, length 108. It can still come back to you using a longer, stretch of fabric. If you have up to 200 inches, it's still okay, but I have 108 inches. So I'm running a gather stitch again from beginning, having secured it at the beginning. Run a gather stitch. As you run that gather stitch, you pull. You run the stitch, you pull. Do it systematically from beginning to the end. Endeavor to have your gathers at the same interval, equal interval. See what we came out with. So beautiful. Now this is what we have. We want to start to make a flower from this. So by the time you finish gathering, you would have something like 25 inches as your length. That is 108 inches became reduced to like 25 to 30 inches. So you start to roll it like this, as you can see me do. Can you see? It has given us a flower. Get your needle and thread and secure what you have just done with stitching. As you stitch it, you still arrange it. Endeavor to have a beautiful flower. Can you see? I'm repeating the process again so that you can get what I'm doing. Just watch this video, you will understand. Roll, stitch, roll and form a flower accessory. Roll, stitch. By the time you are done, you would have a beautiful gather flowers. Can you see it? If it were longer than this, we will have a fuller, concept. Now, with your hands, arrange your flowers properly. If you need to tack one or two places, go ahead and do. Then with your needle and thread, tack it tightly to the back of your Zarah cap.